So, hello students. Today we are into the lecture number 11 of Introduction to Computer Networks. So, today we shall be going into a little bit of details about what is MAC address and what is IP address. Okay, so today's lecture is going to be regarding the IP addresses and MAC addresses. Okay, so as I have told in the previous classes that computer networks is used for sending some digital data across one device to the other device. Now it may be connected across a LAN, it may be connected across a WAN, it may be connected across a MAN. Okay, so whatever be the connection, the data has to be sent from one place to the other, right? Like from one device to the other device. Now, how does the device which is sending know that I have to send a message or a digital data to another computer? So it is similar to like we post certain letters, right? So we post certain letters, but before posting any letter or any, let's say, for example, any package, or it may be any like application, or it may be anything. So before posting, what do we need? We need the address, right? We need the address of the receiver. So in the same way, in a computer network, if we are to look into a computer network, then inside a network, each device has a certain address. Okay, each computer has a certain address. Now there are two kinds of addresses. First of all, we have the MAC address. First of all, we have the MAC address. With the MAC address, what is MAC address? Now, MAC address stands for Media Access Control Address. Media Access Control, MAC, MAC. So that is the full form. So now MAC, what is the MAC address or what does it refer to? It basically the MAC address refers to a unique identifier that is assigned to a network interface card or NIC. Okay, so in different places you will see that this MAC address is also referred to as physical address. Okay, MAC address, it is also referred to as physical address, or it may be referred to as hardware address also. Okay, so where is that address denoted or assigned? It is assigned to the NIC. Okay, network interface card or network interface controller. Now what is the type? I will show how does the MAC address look like. See, as you can see this picture, the MAC address of a computer looks like this. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 parts in it, right? So first 3 parts, what you're looking, the first 3 parts, this first, second, third pair, it is organizational unique identifier. This first part stands for organizational unique identifier. Means if suppose you have a computer for of HP or let's say Dell. Okay, so this first part will indicate the companies. Each company has a unique identifier. Each company, for example, let's say this is the unique identifier for HP. Okay, so all the computers of HP will have this unique identifier. Now this, on the other hand, NIC controls controller specific. This part may change according to devices. Okay, this part may change according to devices. For example, let us say, let us take any MAC address. Okay, so 001A3F. This will remain constant, whereas F1, 4C, and C6. So this will change. Now let us say I want to name another device. So how will I name it? 001A3F. This will remain the same. Whereas the next device I can give a name such as F1, 4C, 67, C7. So if I change this one also, the whole address gets changed, right? The whole address gets changed. So if I change this 6 to 7, this will also be counted as a different MAC address or a different media access control address. So I hope it is clear. So the MAC address contains a 64-bit or 48-bit address and connected to the concerned network adapter. Okay. So the MAC address exists in hexadecimal format. Now students, what you are seeing here, this is a hexadecimal format. This format what you are looking here on your screens right now, this is of a hexadecimal format. Hexadecimal means base 16. It has a base 16. Now coming to IP addresses. Okay, so as I told you, MAC address is the physical address. MAC address is the physical address or the hardware address. Okay, so this MAC address comes along with the device. It is it comes along with the device. Now coming to IP address. Now the term IP, it stands for internet. The term IP stands for internet protocol address. Okay, so I want you all to remember this, that IP address refers to internet protocol address. Now an IP address refers to the address that assists a user in identifying network connection. Now let me explain it with the help of an example or diagram. Let's see. Now suppose here is one device, let's say A, and there is one device named B. Okay. Now this suppose is located in India. This device is suppose located at US. Okay. Now obviously this will have a different IP and this will have a different IP address. Okay. Now there are many devices like this. There may be many devices like this. Now each IP address is unique. Each IP address is unique for a device. Okay. Each IP address is unique for a device. Now how does this A come to know that I have to change or send some data? How does it come to know that I have to send some data from here to here? Okay. How does A know? So what A will do, A will send this data packet. Sorry. A will send A, this is the data packet which has to be sent from A to B, let's say. Okay. So it along with the data, it will supply, suppose B, it will give B's IP. So this data plus B, this B device's IP. The device name is B. The device name is B, right? So the device's IP will also be attached, and after attaching both the things, this whole package, where students, this whole package is being sent, where this package is being sent to B. Okay, so it goes from A to B with the data and B's individual IP address. Okay, so IP address is nothing but it is a kind of address which will help you to locate a computer or a device in a specific network. Okay, so this IP address is nothing but it will help you, or it is a unique identifier that helps or assists a user in identifying a network connection. Okay, it also goes by logical address. So as I told you that MAC address is known as the physical address or hardware address, IP address is known as the logical address. Okay, so an IP address lets us to understand and control how the various devices communicate on the internet. Okay, on the internet, and that is why because of the IP address only we are able to locate or send some data. Okay, let us, for example, let's say you are sending a message to your friend. Okay, who is sitting in suppose Delhi. So now, if you have sent a mail from your device or your computer, the mail is being sent to the internet, and in the internet you gave, while sending the mail, you gave the address, you gave the mail ID, right? You gave the mail ID. Okay, so from the mail ID only it will try to locate that, okay, this mail ID belongs to which IP address, and accordingly, if you have given the mail ID, the IP address gets fed, and accordingly what happens, the mail that you have sent reaches the sender, sorry, it reaches the receiver. From the sender it goes to the receiver, and by the IP address it will locate that, okay, this is my destination and I have to deliver my mail or whatever is the required data, I have to send it to that address. So this addressing is controlled or is being looked after by IP address. Okay. Now an IP address, there are two types of IP address. Let me tell you, IPv4 and IPv6. Okay, there are two types of IP addresses, IPv4 and IPv6. We'll get into that slowly, but before that, you just need to know that an IP address looks like this: 192.168.100.1. Okay, now each of these first group, this is known as the octets. So this is the first octet, 168 is the second octet, 100 is the third octet, then 1 is the fourth octet. So you can write like 101, 102, whatever that you wish. Okay, so these are the four octet groups, and each each octet, this 4 4 4, sorry, 8 8 8 8. How many? There are four groups as such. So 8 into 4, 32 bits. Okay, 8 into 4, 32 bits. So that it means IPv4 addressing can give addresses to how many devices? 2 to the power 32 devices. Okay, 2 to the power 32 devices it can give addresses to. Okay, now the next thing, we came to know that what is IP address and MAC address. Now why do we need MAC address? So MAC address provides a secure way for senders or receivers in the network to find senders or receivers. Okay, as you know that it is a hardware address, MAC address is a hardware address, so it cannot be changed, right? It comes with the hardware by default. Okay, so it is a secure way of sending to find senders or receivers in the network. Next, it helps you to prevent unauthorized network access. So unauthorized access or someone tries to invade to the network, that is not allowed. Okay, it helps you to prevent that. Next, it acts as a unique identifier, as we all know. We all know that it acts as a unique identifier between the various devices. Okay, and I hope this picture is clear. This picture should be clear. Okay, so MAC address looks like this. It has how many? One, two, three, four, five, six. It has six groups. Okay, the first three denote the organizational unique identifier, means this will be restricted to the company. It may be Dell, it may be HP, it may be Lenovo, it may be Acer, it may be any company. Okay, so this will depend upon the company. Each company has its unique identifier, and after that these can come as the devices. Okay, so let me explain it a little bit how it is. Suppose, let us say I have a address. Let's say the address is, let me give an IP address. Okay, sorry, MAC address. Some, let's see. Okay, now let us say 003F, then 2C, then you have 33, then you have 22, then you have 1F. Okay, so suppose let's say this is this part and this part. So this is a kind of MAC address. Okay, so it is hexadecimal in nature, as we all have seen. Now this part, this first part, my dear students, this first part remains constant. Okay, suppose it, let's say this belongs to HP, this belongs to HP company. Now what if the HP company has to give a different address to a different device? It cannot change this first part, so it will remain same. It remains the same. Let us give a MAC address to another device. HP, this is computer number 1. Let's say it wants to give the MAC address to computer number 2. So what will it give? Again double zero. Okay. Then again it will give 3F. Then again it will give 2C. Now students, you see that this part what you see, it cannot be changed because it is authorized to HP. Let's say this first organizational unique identifier. It is known as organizational unique identifier, OUI. It is known as OUI. Okay. So this is unique. Now what if I have to assign a different MAC address? So what can I do? I can keep it same. Let's say 33. I can keep it 22. I can make a small change here. Let's say I make it 2F. So earlier it was 1F. So from 1F it changed to 2F, right? So this belongs to the next device. So from here we can come to know that okay, this is a different MAC address and this is a different MAC address. Both are different MAC addresses, but how can we come to know which company it belongs to? By looking at this part. This what you're seeing right here, or maybe this what you're seeing right here on your screens. This part will indicate the company or the organization from which the device has been taken. Okay. So I hope this part is clear. Okay, now going to the next part. Why do we need an IP address? So IP address is assigned to every device in a network so that they can be located, right? So to know the location of the device, where it is and where the data has to be sent, you need a IP address. So it helps to develop a virtual connection between the destination and source. Yes, right. The statement is correct, truly, because it helps you to develop a virtual connection between destination and source. So when you send a message or text message, do we go to the different person's mobile or any device that is there? Do we go there physically? No, we don't go there physically. It is just a virtual connection. And who helps establish that virtual connection? The IP address. Okay. Now IP address is one kind of a numeric label only, right? And one more thing, my dear students, that this what you're seeing right here on your screens, it has dots for separation. As you can see this IP address on your screens, it has dot for separation. So it is also known as dotted decimal notation. Let me repeat it once again. It is also known as dotted decimal notation. Okay. Now it acts as an identifier for specific machine on a particular network. Yes, it helps you to uniquely identify. Okay. And it helps you to specify the technical format of addressing and packaging scheme. So this is not that necessary for you all. Still, and then we go to MAC address. Okay, MAC address is known as hardware address, as I told you. So they use the TCP/IP networks. The TCP/IP networks use MAC addresses in their communication. So this TCP/IP is a kind of network protocol. So they use this MAC address. Okay. So I have discussed about network protocols in the previous part, and you can go and see the previous lectures. It helps you to identify a specific network interface card in a computer network. Okay, so as it has been told previously that MAC address is located or situated in the network interface card. So it helps you to identify a specific network interface card there on the network. Okay, network devices cannot efficiently route traffic using MAC addresses. Okay, so now one thing, that MAC addresses will not help you to find a device which is located in another country. For that, you have to use the IP address. Okay, and neither it provide information about physical or logical network connection. That is one drawback. That is a drawback. Okay. Now, IP address is a numeric label that is assigned to each device. Okay, it is 32 bits long or 128 bits. Okay, and it is provided by the network admin or internet service provider, ISP. Internet service provider provides you the computer with IP address. Okay, now there are two types of IP addresses. Okay, one is IPv4 and other is IPv6. Okay, so look at these two examples. IPv4 will have like this four dots. Okay, and decimal form with four dots. So 192.168.0.11. Okay, so this is an example of IP address. Okay, you can take the example of other IP addresses also. Like for example, let's say, let us say that there is an I want to give an IP address to a device. Okay, what are the IP addresses I can give? What are the IP addresses I can give? Suppose 198. Sorry, there is 198. Okay, then you have, let's say, a dot here. Then you have 22. Then you have 13. Then you have 11. 1. So how many dots are there? 1. Let's see, here is another dot 2. Here is another dot here. Okay, there will be 3 dots and 4 groups like this. One, third, second group. This is the third group. This is the fourth group. Okay, so like this you can give. So this may change. This may change IP address. So this is one kind of IP address that you are going to give. Okay, this is one kind of IP address that you are going to give. Now coming to IPv6. Okay, so this previous what IPv4, it is of 32-bit address. Okay, it is a 32-bit address. Means what it means is that each of this, what you're seeing, this will contain, let's say, this will contain 4 bytes, 8 bytes. This will contain 8 bytes. This will contain 8 bytes, and the last this will contain 8 bytes. So that means what, there are 4 groups. 4 into 8, that is equal to 32. Okay, 4 into 8, 32. That means this addressing IP address, this IP address, what you're seeing, it can give addresses to 2 to the power 32 addresses. It can give 2 to the power 32 number of addresses. Now, since there are more than 7 million devices, or even more than that, the number of that is changing day by day. So what happened is that IPv6, IPv4 was not enough to provide enough. What it was not possible for IPv4 to provide the requisite number of addresses. Okay, there was a limitation because 2 to the power 32 is not much. So what happened? The developers had developed IPv6. So this can provide 1 to the power, sorry, 2 to the power 128-bit addresses. Okay, so this is how IPv6 address looks like. So the previous one, IPv4, this was of dotted decimal notation. Now this one, this will have 8. There are 8 groups. There are 8 groups. Okay, 8 groups of 16 bits. 8 groups of 16 bits. Okay, there are 8 groups. This is the first group. This is the second. This is the third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, and lastly eighth. So there are 8 groups, as you can see, and each group is separated by colon sign. As you can see, it is separated by colon signs, columns. Okay, now these groups are of 16 bytes. So how many addresses? 16 into how many groups? 8 groups. So 16 into 8, that is 128, right? So this is IPv6, and it can give more number of addresses to various devices as compared to IPv4. Okay, now this is what an IPv6 address format looks like. Okay, as you can see, this is the colon hexadecimal notation, and the previous was dotted decimal notation. This is known as colon hexadecimal notation. Okay, so MAC address is also, as I told previously, MAC address is also known as physical address or the burnt-in address or the software address. Okay, it is located on the network interface card. I hope it is clear. Now let us look at certain differences. Okay, so MAC stands for media access control, whereas IP stands for internet protocol address. Okay, so MAC address is hexadecimal in nature. Okay, it is hexadecimal in nature. Now IP address, it has either 8 bytes or 6 bytes. Okay, then the IP address, the manufacturer, where is the where is, or provider, let us say provider, okay, who provides for the MAC address? The MAC address of any device is being provided by the manufacturer. So as I gave the example of HP laptops, right? So it will have a certain prefixed or certain definite MAC address. The first three groups or the first three parts of the MAC address will be of the organization, and the next three belongs to the device. Okay. Now, who provides the IP address? IP address is given by ISP, Internet Service Provider. Okay. What is the use? Coming to the uses, the primary use of MAC address is to ensure the physical address, and the IP address ensures the computers or defines the computer's logical address. Okay. Now, this is one thing that you should know, that MAC address operates on the data link layer, and IP address operates on the network layer. As because IP address helps you to locate the various devices on a network, right? So it operates on the network layer. Okay. Now address and representation. As you can see, address and representation. So IPv4 has an address of 32 bits. This is very essential to remember, my dear students. And whereas IPv6, the IPv6 has a length of 128 bits. Okay, 128 bits. And there is one difference, that the MAC address is represented by hexadecimal format with hyphens or colons in between. Okay, hyphens or colons will be there in MAC addresses, and in IP addresses, what do we find? We find dots or decimal notation. Okay, we have dotted decimal notation. So as you can see that this is a certain kind of IPv6 address. So IPv6 has colons, whereas IPv4, as you can see here, IPv4 addressing has dotted dots to separate them, that is dotted decimal notation. Whereas the MAC address is a hexadecimal format. It is of the hexadecimal format. Okay. So what did we learn today? The MAC address is a physical address or hardware address. IP address is a logical address. So MAC address is there on the hardware. Okay, it is a burnt address, and IP address is being provided by the internet service provider. It keeps on changing. As you go on changing with the network, the IP address goes on changing. Alterations and changes. See, the hardware address cannot be changed. The hardware address, for example, can you change your permanent address? No. The hardware address does not change. It is fixed. But whereas the IP address gets changed depending upon your location and as well as environment. Okay. Any third party can find out the device's MAC address. But in case of IP address, the IP address stays hidden. It is not visible and it cannot be accessed by any other third party. Okay, students. So I hope you all have understood the basic differences between IP and MAC addresses, and please do give a revision of the whole video, and please see all these diagrams. Okay, these diagrams are meant for your own use only. Okay, so please go through these diagrams and then you will have a clarified idea that what is actually IP address, MAC address. And in IP address you have two forms, IPv4 and you have the other one, IPv6. IPv4 addresses shall be differentiated by dots or decimals, and whereas IPv6 will have separation of columns. Okay, this one has four groups of 8 bytes, and that is why it gets 32-bit addresses, and it has 8 groups of 16 bytes, and that is why it gets 128-bit addresses. Okay, the IPv4 is used for multicasting and broadcasting, and IPv6 addressing cannot be used for multicasting as well as broadcasting. Okay, so I hope you all have understood this, and please do go through the chapter and the video once again and read it nicely so that you have a better idea, and we shall meet in the next lecture. Okay, thank you, students.